part 2 of our Very Hungry Caterpillar blanket, we're going to be attaching the first body section. So if you notice on the cover of the book, his body section is going to the left. So you don't have to put the body section on the left, but if you want to make it like the book, he has his body section to the left in every picture in the book. If you're watching the left-handed version, we will be working it on the right-hand side just because the video has been flipped. So you pick which side you want it to be on. For this video, you're going to need a couple of stitch markers. You're going to need your eye hook, which is a size 5.25 millimeter, and you're going to need your lighter color green yarn. So let's get started. Alright, so you're going to need to get your 2 stitch markers and take a look at the side of the head where you're going to be adding the body onto it. And so if you kind of spread your stitches apart, you can see where all of those double crochets are, and then as you move to the top of the head, you will run into that double crochet, the 2 double crochets that you did into that one stitch. Keep going until you find the second 2 double crochet stitch and put a stitch marker on that one that's closer to the top side of his head. And that's going to be where we're going to start the row for his body. And then for the other end, you're going to pull them apart and keep going. There's our first 2 double crochet, and keep going and look for the second 2 double crochet and put a stitch marker on the one closest to the bottom of his head. And so that's where the body part is going to run. So we're going to start up at the top of his head. We're going to grab our light color green yarn and we're going to get started. Okay, so I'm going to take that stitch marker out, and then that is where we're going to attach our light green yarn. So we're going to pull that through, and then if you want to try to work your tail in as we double crochet, you can. So we're going to chain 3. And now if you take a look, the head is curved. So what we need to do is make some stitches so that we kind of straighten this curve out a little bit so that our body will lie flat. So what we're going to do is in this next stitch right here, we're going to do another double crochet in this stitch and the next one. So you're going to do 2 double crochets. So that's going to keep the height of our stitches there, but we need to reduce the height of the stitches until we get to the side of his head, because we're really kind of on top of his head. So once you've done those, and that counts as your 3 double crochets, okay, now the next 2 stitches we're going to be doing what's called an extended half double crochet, which is very similar to a double crochet, but there's one little difference that I'll show you. So if you want to watch before you do the next stitch, or you can do it along with me, we're going to yarn over just like we do on our half double crochet or our double crochet. And once again, I'm carrying my yarn so that I can put it in with my stitching and not have to weave it in later. So this extended half double crochet, you yarn over, you go into your stitch, and you pull up a loop. Instead of going through the 2 loops, we're only going to go through 1. And then we're going to see how there's 3 loops, and then we're going to pull through all 3 loops. So that's going to give us a stitch that is just a smudge shorter than the double crochet. And so we're going to be doing that again. So we're going to do one more extended half double crochet. So we're going to yarn over and go in our next stitch, pull up a loop, only go through 1 loop, and then we're going to go through all 3 loops. So you can kind of see that's gotten a little bit shorter. Now in the next 2 stitches we're going to do half double crochets, and if you don't know how to do those, it's pretty easy. You just yarn over, go in your stitch, pull up a loop, and then you're going to pull through all 3 loops. So you can see that that is just a smudge shorter than the extended half double crochet. So we're going to do another half double crochet, so that makes 2 of those. So we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So we have our 3 double crochets, because our chain 3 at the beginning counts as one of them. So we've got 3 double crochets, 2 extended half double crochets, and 2 half double crochets. Now we're going to be doing some single crochets in the next 31 stitches. Or if maybe you didn't end up with the exact same amount of stitches, you just need to at least do single crochets until you get down here to the last 7 stitches. So we need to leave 7 stitches, including this one. We need to leave these 7 stitches unworked to do the exact same thing we did down here, only backwards. So hopefully you know how to do a single crochet. We're going to do that all the way across. If you would like to pause the video, I'm going to do this off camera, and I will meet you at the other end where we're going to work the last 7 stitches. Okay, so here we are. I've done all of my single crochets and I've come to the last 7 stitches. I'm going to go ahead and take my stitch marker out, and then we're going to be working the stitches to get up to the taller double crochets. So the next stitch we're going to do in the next 2 stitches is our half double crochet, where you yarn over, go in your stitch, pull up a loop, and then go through all 3. Same thing. So that is the half double crochet. It's a little bit taller than a single crochet. Now we're going to be doing 2 extended half double crochets, and that's where we yarn over, go in and pull up a loop, only go through 1 loop, then the other 3. And we're going to do that again. So that's a little bit taller. And now the last 3 stitches are going to be worked as double crochets. So that's kind of straightened out a little bit more, but we're going to compensate a little bit more when we go to the next row. So we're going to chain 3, and we're going to turn our work over. Okay, so you can see that we still have a little bit of a slope. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue to do the compensation, and we're going to repeat the exact same thing that we just did for the row before. So we're going to double crochet in the next 2 stitches. Then we're going to do 2 extended half double crochets. Then we're going to do 2 half double crochets. And then we're going to continue going across with our single crochets until we get to the last 7 stitches. And I will meet you there for us to finish the last 7 doing the same thing as this, only in reverse. Okay, so here we are on the last 7 stitches, and remember the beginning chain 3 from the row before does count as a stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we're going to be repeating the same thing we did on the row before. We're going to do 2 half double crochets, 2 extended half double crochets, and 3 double crochets to finish off the row. Okay, so you can see that that really straightened out the side of his head, and so now we're ready to begin the body section, and the instructions that I'm about to show you are going to be repeated for this section, the next section, which is the dark green, and then one more light green section. So there's going to be 3 body sections that are going to be using the instructions in this next step. So I'm only going to be recording these instructions for this one body part, and then you can rewind it for when you get to the dark green if you need to see it again, and then the other light green one if you need to see it again. And then the tail section is going to be in a totally different video. So we're going to pause the video for just a second and get everything going for the first body section. All right, so we're going to chain 3 to begin the rest of this body section. We're going to turn our work over. And now we need to start increasing so that our body section will bulge out. And so to increase, at the beginning of every row and at the end of every row, we're going to be adding another stitch at the bottom of our chain 3. So if you notice, here is our last double crochet from the row before. Our chain 3 sits on top of it. So if we do another double crochet in here, that's going to add a stitch to our row. So that's what we're going to need to do on this row. Now we're going to do double crochets all the way across until we get to the end of the row. So if you want to pause the video, and I'm going to finish this row off camera, I'll meet you back when we get to the last couple of stitches on this row. All right, here we are at the end of the row. We still have a double crochet and the top of this chain 3. So we're going to do a double crochet in the top of this double crochet, and then at the top of our chain 3 we're going to work 2 double crochets because we need to increase. So make sure you try to go under 2 of those loops of yarn just so that the hole doesn't get real big, and work 2 double crochets in the top of that chain 3. And so we've just increased. Now we're going to chain 3 and turn. And we're basically going to do the same thing that we just did on this row. We're going to do another double crochet at the bottom of our chain 3. We're going to double crochet all the way across, and we're going to put 2 double crochets in the top of this chain 3. So if you would like to pause the video, I'm going to do the rest of this row off camera, and then I will meet you at the end of the row just for one more reminder on how to add that other stitch, how to increase at the top of that ending chain 3. All right, here we are again at the end of this row. We're going to work double crochet in the top of this one, and then we're going to do our 2 double crochets in the top of this chain 3 from the row before. So let's take a look at how it's starting to curve out. So you can see as we increase, I know it's kind of hard to see because we've only done a couple of rows, but as we increase, it's going to go out and get bigger. Now we're going to need to do that for a total of 7 rows of increasing. So we've done 2 rows of increasing. We're going to need to do 5 more increasing rows. So hopefully by doing these 2 rows together, you can continue and do 5 more rows where you increase on each end. So all you have to do is chain 3 at the beginning of your row. Make sure to turn your work. Make sure that you work an additional double crochet at the bottom of your beginning chain 3. Just double crochet across, and then when you get to the end, make sure to make 2 double crochets in the top of this beginning chain 3 from the row before, and then you will have finished your 5 rows. So you can see here we have 2 rows of increase. I'll meet you back here once you have 5 more rows done, and that'll give us a total of 7, and then we'll continue this body section. All right, so here we are. We have finished our 7 increase rows, and you can see how we have a nice slope. You can easily count your rows because every couple of rows you have like a division here. So you can see that we have 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and then this is our 1, and then these are our 2 increase that we're kind of evening it out. So we have our 7 increase rows, and then down here at the end where I finished it, we are ready to move on to the next row. So we're going to chain 3, and we're going to turn our work. Now for the next 4 rows, we're not going to do any increasing. We're just going to do straight double crochet stitches. So you will not go into the bottom of this chain 3 for the next 4 rows. You will start in this stitch and you will just work double crochets all the way across, and at the end of the row make sure you do a double crochet in the top of the chain 3 from the row before, and then just chain 3, turn, and keep on going. So do 4 rows of just plain old double crochets, and then I will meet you back here. Okay, now that we have finished our 7 increase rows and our 4 rows where we've just done double crochets, no increase, we're ready to start our 7 rows of decreasing. So we're going to basically do the same thing that we've done on the end of each row. We're going to chain 3 and turn our work over. Then this is what you're going to do at the beginning of every row for the next 7 rows. And we'll do a couple of rows together, and then you can complete the last 5 on your own. So if you take a look at your work, you have your beginning chain 3, and then you have these next 2 stitches. So what we need to do is we need to take these 2 double crochet stitches and combine them into one, so that we start decreasing 1 stitch on each end of the row, and we're basically decreasing 2 stitches per row because we're taking away 1 stitch at the end of each. So we're going to work a decreasing double crochet stitch. So at the beginning of every row after you do your chain 3, you will start to work a double crochet stitch in the next stitch, but you're only going to work it halfway. So leave those 2 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and go into the next stitch and work half of a double crochet, and you have 3 stitches on there, 3 loops on the hook. So then you're just going to draw through all 3 of those. So if you take a look at your work, you have your chain 3, and then notice how you've taken those 2 stitches there and you have combined them into one. So basically there is your 1 stitch, your 1 V on top of those 2 combined together. So that's what you're going to do at the beginning of every row. And then you're going to continue to double crochet across until you get to the last 2 stitches. So I'm going to turn the camera off. If you want to pause, I'm going to do the rest of this row off camera, just the regular double crochets, and I will meet you at the end. Here we are at the end of our first decrease row, and so you can see I have about 3 stitches left. I'm going to go ahead and do a double crochet in this stitch. That way I will have a double crochet stitch as well as my beginning chain 3 from the row before left. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn those 2 double crochet stitches into 1 to do our decrease. So we're going to do the same thing that we did at the beginning of the row. We're going to yarn over and go in our stitch, bring up a loop and only work halfway through that double crochet. Then we're going to yarn over, go into the top of that chain 3, pull up a loop and work half of that double crochet. So we're taking those 2 stitches and working it into 1. So you can see we have made 1 stitch out of those 2. And now we're ready to start our second decreasing row. So we're going to chain 3, turn our work, and then we're going to work our double crochet decrease. Remember, we're not going into this stitch. We're going to take the next 2 and work them in as 1. So we're going to yarn over and go in, work that one halfway. Same thing with this second one. And then come through all 3 loops, and then we've decreased. So you can really see that we have our slant going in. So we're going to finish out this row. I'm going to meet you at the end so that I can show you one more time how to finish out that row with that double crochet decrease. Okay, here we are at the end of our second decrease row, and you can see the decreases from the row before. This is our chain 3 that we began with, and then these are those 2 stitches that we made into 1. So you can see that we still have this double crochet to work, and then this decreased double crochet and our chain 3, those are our 2 stitches that we're going to be combining into 1. So let me do a double crochet in this stitch, and then we'll work our decreased double crochet in the other 2. So same thing, yarn over, go in and only work it halfway. Yarn over, go in and only work it halfway, and then pull through the final 3 loops. And so we have finished our second row of our decrease. So I want you to do 5 more decrease rows. That'll give us a total of 7 decrease rows, and then we'll be finished with our first body section. So if you need to rewind and watch those 2 rows again, you can do that. I'm going to pause the video and I will meet you back at the end of body section number 1. Alright, so here I am at the very end of my last decrease row, and I've double check to make sure I have a total of 18 rows. There's 7 increase, 4 just regular, 7 decrease. So before you cut your yarn, make sure you have the right amount of rows. And then before I switch to my dark green for the next section, I do like to just go ahead and finish this off. That way there's no chance of it coming unraveled. And we're going to turn Now, the directions for the dark green section and the following light green section are exactly the same, but I wanted to show you how you begin that section because it's a little bit different than how we began the section at the beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my dark green yarn and I'm going to go under the loop, the V of that first stitch, and then I'm going to add my dark green in there. And I like to crochet over my tails, so I'm going to have those together. Let me do it in front like this. So I'm going to hold those down and I'm going to chain 3. And then I'm going to immediately start my increase row because we're going to do 7 rows of increases. So after you do your chain 3, you're going to be doing a double crochet in that very same stitch. So you're just going to yarn over, let me hold those in place, and double crochet in that same stitch. And then you will just go ahead and do your double crochets in each stitch across. You will do your 2 double crochets down here in this last beginning, the top of your beginning chain 3, you'll do 2 double crochets, and then the rest of this body section is exactly like this one before. So if you need to rewind it to where it says body section, I have a title slide you can easily find to rewind to, and then you can do your dark green section, and then after you finish your dark green section, you'll be doing another light green section after that, and it's worked the exact same way. So by the end of this video, before we get started on the tail, you need to have a light green, a dark green, and a light green section. And then you can continue to the separate video about the tail, which is going to be the dark green section. So this is the end of this video. I'll catch you in the tail section of our caterpillar video.